Now, you may not want my personal opinion about these liveries. Well, I'm going to give it to you anyway. And my personal opinion, these teams have got too much gosh darn money. Because we may have won the battle of colour, but sponsor clutter? That's another battle entirely. The designers, I feel for them terribly right now. My friends over at BoxBox have their own championship for liveries, and you can add your own rating, plus rate every single race going forward, and into the past should you sign up. But you're here for my ratings, so here we go. And we start things off with, I think, obviously, the Alpine A526. I mean, somebody had to be here, and Alpine was just that. Blue and pink is something only Alpine has managed to somewhat interpret well over the years, but this year, it is a little lackluster. We all pine, see what I did there, for the A521, a design classic, and even the A523 from 2023 had some stylish French twist to the motif to make up for the carbon fibre permeating design choices at the time. Heck, I kinda look back to the 2024 all-carbon livery and feel less harsh toward it here. And whilst I'm pleased to see the luscious blue of Alpine still the dominant colour in terms of surface layer, the pink does shout out that bit louder to the point where I'd actually preferred if we had mostly pink and then with blue around the side. But I mean, hey, according to various reports, it feels like Renault in motorsport won't be around much longer. There's all of this stuff going around from the mayor of Viry-Châtillon, where the Renault engine base is located, and he's not exactly happy the brand new CEO of Renault's sort of welched on all of the deals and securements when we had those protests when they pulled out of Formula 1 initially. And not to mention the World Endurance Team might be about to be shuttering up shop after 2026, so what is exactly going on here? And then the Christian Horner MSP Sports Capital rumours. Those are the guys who once invested in McLaren. They might be looking to invest even more than that 24% from Ultra Capital with Alpine, with Christian in charge. So quite frankly, the way this livery looks sort of sums up the way I feel Renault is looking at motorsport right now. It's there, I'm glad the blue is there, but the pink is there, and I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, alright. There's nothing here that's getting me enticed bar the blue finish, and that's been around for several years at this point, so it's not really anything new. Shame. And then at number 10, something that is new, the Racing Bulls V-Carbo 3. You might be a little bit surprised with this one. You might think it's cool, and that's perfectly fine. But I look to what we got here, to what we had last year, and it leaves me feeling a little disappointed. Because that motif with the teeny tiny little bulls was not only interesting, it was also something refreshing. It was, I think, my favourite livery of the year. That with the white paint, the classic Red Bull motif, it felt new. It felt like the team had managed to find an identity. After going through an existential crisis in 2024 with the Toro Rosso throwback livery, whilst cool, felt like it wasn't really sure what it wanted to be. Was it a junior team? Was it a sister team? The management had no clue about what they wanted to be. Now they do, though. They are very much appealing to those Zoomers down there. And quite frankly, I really like the motif. It reminds me of late 90s grunge. I like it. And you would think the design language would have followed suit. We would have gotten something a little bit more grungy, a little bit more fanciful. Maybe just a repeat of what we got in 2025. Well, no. What we got was an implementation of the Ford Racing Blue, but we got some generic meaningless swooshes. I still wish for a world where the Cash App green is used a little more in tandem with the white and blue on the car, like it is for the suit sometimes. And it doesn't get any points for the standard bull motifs because, well, they're just that. We see that all the time. And the different numbering on the airbox and nose, at least for Liam Lawson's car, that is really, really weird. In short, this for me feels less special. I get nothing from seeing this car, except being reminded of the 1976 Ligier. If you know, you know. And then, and it pains me to say this, in 9th place I have the Audi R26, because it has the rare honour, a very distinct honour, of being a brand new team, yet showcasing a livery twice already. Because the concept that we got in November was the exact same design that we got in January, save for more sponsor stickers, and British Petroleum very much being the party pooper in all of that. I look at what we got in January, and I'm just thinking, oh, you pretty much changed nothing. I thought what we got in November was basically a colour swatch. It's a good colour base. I'm looking forward to what we might get next year, but this year, your first year of the statement year? Oh, I hope that's not on the very long list of things to do after what happened in the shakedown. I don't hate the design. It's got some good angles on it where it looks beautiful, especially at the back, but the lack of actual composition makes this car look like just a palette. I do love those choices of black, neon red, and silver. It's very Audi, very German. The red rings on black, those are sexy, I'm not gonna lie. And the silver is iconic. But the lack of change from concept to reality took a lot of the wind out of the sails here. I felt just as out of breath as I did just imagining going up all of those stairs at the launch party. I still wish I was there though. That party did look like a really good time. So, again, I don't mind the colours. I think they have the potential to make a stonkingly good livery in the years to come. But this time around, just repeating what we got in November where it was the concept, and then realising that, hey, this is probably an example where the concept really should have changed when we actually got the full retail product. But it may lead to, possibly, a badass iteration for 2027. Unless we get the same thing again, and if it does, end me. Then, in 8th place, we have the Williams FW48, and you might be thinking, what on earth are you talking about, Law? This Williams car looks great. It's got so many sponsors on them. Surely you'd be happy for them. Well, I am. I'm absolutely thrilled that Williams is in rude health financially, to the point where they have so many partners signing on with them, they actually have to fill in partners inside the rear wing. That is a really good sign that your team is doing well. But the rest of it? It feels like a transitional phase where Williams has gone from the era where they were lucky to have Nicky Latifi's partners on the car to now, well, what are we going to do with this one over here? It just feels like a hodgepodge, where they've realised how we're going to integrate all of these ones properly, and they really didn't stick the landing here. The potential is there for something quite cool, but I am missing the subtle fade we had with the FW47, where we had bright blue at the back to dark blue at the front. That was really smart and really, really subtle. Instead, we have the bright blue only, with white accents, the red pinstripe as well, and the light blue of new major sponsor Barclays, which does have the possibility to work. I don't mind it at all. Although Kraken at the front going for a purpley blue hue, it's a little janky. And as for the Duracell, oh, I have no problems with that at all. We all love that integration. Put simply, it's one of the most genius design choices in modern day Formula One livery design. Whoever came up with that deserves an absolute buttload of money, or at least a plaque of recognition in their honour, because it's just inspired. I don't mind it at all. And as for the colours, it's absolutely fine. I don't mind the colours. Williams is known for being blue and white. None of that is the issue here. The light blue could easily come up with something really inspired and really slick. It's just in a place where it's not exactly gelling well yet. It's just a mix and match of different sponsors. It just needs to be worked at in the years to come. Or one way they could try and fix it is just do what they did for Austin last year, where it was a bit of dark blue at the back and then white at the front. That looked really, really clean. A nice little nod to the early 2000s Williams, which was around about the same time when the majority of the equipment was actually founded. So hey, it was a bit of a throwback in more ways than one. But maybe they could do something with light blue cheat lines to represent Barclays, and then they can have it on the nose cone or something. That'd be cool. And then we have the McLaren MCL40. Now, I'm not angry with the fact that they are using the same base design for the 3rd year in a row. They've just hatched upon something that Red Bull had for the longest time, and Mercedes had for the longest time. A combination which is known to be attached to success. But there's just something about it on this car which makes it feel really lumpy. You know what I mean? There is more papaya on it thanks to the rules handed down by the FIA stipulating you have to cover at least 55% of your car in either paint or vinyl stickers. That's good. But I do sense a lot of disappointment in them, McLaren, not running simply the test livery, which only had papaya in the numbering, the rest being black and grey elements except the McLaren logo. It looked mean, didn't it? But you gotta remember, McLaren is all about brand recognition on wheels. If there's anything you should know about them, they know their brand, and this is associated with all of it. Why change it? Nevertheless though, out of all of the 3 versions of this base design, which is sort of a nod to the Marlboro days except with a different colour swatch, it just feels the least well integrated. It might be due to the sponsor clutter, where it was OKX on the side pod, and that was perfectly fine. We've now got Velo, we've got MasterCard, we've got OKX, we've got Gemini, and then a really weird black space, which just feels like really a missed opportunity for at least one of those 3 on that line to make the jump up there, so you've got a continuous line of sponsors. And considering MasterCard is the team's title sponsor, they really don't have loud sticker placements other than on the front wing, but then again, we were complaining about HP being a bit too loud, so it's a bit of a bind, that particular thing. And the team's got over 50 sponsors to deal with, so there's not exactly much room to work with here. And don't get me started on the blue regarding DP World and Allwyn. I mean, that just completely ruins the flow, the Allwyn one especially. Yeah, on the airbox and the mirrors and on the side, DP World has been around for a few years in that regard. You sort of just go, whatever. But Allwyn encroaching even more than they did last year when it was just the mirrors, it's just, ugh! It really, really does not work at all. They must have paid even more money because I don't recall Allwyn having that much of an influence, so that was an all-lose situation right there. I don't mind the Google colour wheel or the Gemini logo on the wheels. That's worked with McLaren for a while now. So overall, it's understandable why they chose this livery, but the sponsor placement and motif, it doesn't look as polished as it did on the MCL 39 or the 38. And then we get to that one. We got a car, eventually, but even then, you could say, we didn't actually get the car. We got the livery, because what we saw in Barcelona to what we actually got after 20 minutes of technical difficulties, and even then the audio kept bugging out, was just the paint job on the show car that F1 supplied everybody. It wasn't the same. But despite all of that and the foreboding words of Fernando Alonso saying it might be the second half until we come good, the devil is in the detail with the AMR 26 livery. If you had a magnifying glass, there are elements on this car which would get you talking, such as little triangles here or there, a gradiated Union Jack on the nose under the Aston logo, the lime green accenting making a bigger appearance after last year, on the engine cover too, which, from a distance, looks like the car hasn't shaved properly, admittedly. It is interesting though, but a little odd. And noticeably, the Aramco logo doesn't have a blue-green background gradient anymore, just a standard light blue, which is better in my opinion. It's less distracting, but true to the sponsor, so we've not got three different shades of green going on at the same time. It's a little bit more cohesive. Also, no random Marden or core weave white on the airbox. It's now a matching black on the actual side pods as well, so it's a little bit more uniform, as in, okay, these are the three colours we can expect from Aston. Black, lime green, and then that base Aston green. Cool. It's not a bad job at all. I think it's perfectly good that Aston may have matured itself into something that is fairly recognisable. But one thing we do have to remember here, and I will get the foam of doubt out for this, is because, again, that is not the actual AMR 26. It's the design that will go on the car, painted onto the car, but it may look completely different. So you can't base things on how ungainly it might look on this show car, because we won't see that car again. We will be seeing it on the really pointy airbox one with all of the tricks and doodads that we saw at that shakedown, and we will see during this week in pre-season testing. So this is not my absolute final judgment in being in 6th place, but for now, I feel it's perfectly reasonable to have it somewhere middle of the road. And it has the potential to go that little bit higher. It just depends on what we see on the final product is all. But in any case, it is an improvement after the last couple of years where things just got a little bit cluttered, what with the addition of that white. I'm glad it's not there anymore. But I am glad to see the white on the Ferrari SF26. That's number 5. And I know that Matty very much vocally said, "Oh, I don't like it. I don't like white on a car. It does not belong on a Ferrari." Well, it does belong on the Ferrari and around the airbox. And also we've got a red Ferrari predominantly with black wings. That is cool. And the HP branding is slightly less numerous than last year. Only slightly, but that is nice. And the sponsor clutter on the side pod, it's not as bad with Ray-Ban having given some breathing space and moved to a different side of the car. That is also nice. Sure, there are tons of sponsors on the nose, but that's normal, that's acceptable. I know the white isn't to everyone's taste, but it is an historical nod, we have seen it before. And it flows better than I remember from last year where it was a standard diagonal line. That making this the worst livery I had of 2025, the SF25, and besides, like with the Aston, the Ferrari we get initially may not be the final version with that paint job. If the FIA approves the Spec B of the SF26, we might see a really different beast with that same paint job, and it might flow even better. I think it's perfectly good. It's a little bit more straightforward. I must admit though, I do miss the SF24 with that addition of yellow after the success of the WEC team and how good it looked with the special Monza livery of 23. But hey-ho, win some, lose some. If we can't have yellow, then we've got a splash of white with a little pinstripe around the side, and we've got those black rear and front wings. That's good. And besides, Ferrari's bar is actually quite low, honestly. You just have to make the car mostly red, black wings, job done. It is an improvement on last year's, definitely. And then at number 4, I've got the Cadillac. Now hear me out on this one, and I know you're going to call me out saying, hey, wait a minute, it's not even been 24 hours since you said you weren't really that impressed with that livery. Well, I've had some time to stew over it, and considering it may not have colour, and that is a bit of a disappointment, the execution of it, though, does have a lot more meaning, and it's not nearly as vapid as you might think. The asymmetric design, it does have some significance. A nod, perhaps, to their two bases, their Silverstone one and their Indiana one, two motorsporting hubs where they chose to lay down camp and build outward from, the brains of British infrastructure, and the brawn of American corporate and brand supremacy, or at least flamboyance, considering General Motors probably sunk 7 figures into promoting the car around the Super Bowl, and around Times Square to boot. No other team would do that, but Cadillac did. In Formula One itself, they probably had a trouser accident in excitement and the amount of casual exposure that their car, or at least one of their brand new teams, had towards the entire sporting market. And mainstream, the people who just watch the Super Bowl for the ads. But I am a little bit saddened that in this era where colour is thankfully encouraged after years of avoiding it with carbon fibre, we don't actually see it, aside from the Tommy Hilfiger on the nose, because, well, that extra bit of red might be used later, we'll wait and see. There are some touches which do look genuinely impressive, and these hints of chrome I think I see on the darker side, that's really good. The Cadillac block pixelation, part of the logo's identity, is the handy addition, especially on the front wing. Sure, it's not got any sponsors yet, but it is cool, and the old school Cadillac logo in negative space on both sides, lovely. It's corporate in a way, but it does have something going for it and a lot of meaning behind it for this American team's first outing in F1. I get it. I nod approvingly. It could age well. It's just think about it. It's already aged well in the last 36 hours. Especially if it's a car that can score points and not be last in the constructors. And I know that many people are saying, oh, well, they're destined for P11. Yes, they can easily finish last, but I don't think it's a guarantee. My video from yesterday goes into a little bit more detail about it, and you can watch it up top right there. But for now, I think in terms of design, Cadillac is number 4. But who starts off the top 3, you might be wondering? Well, it's the other American team, and it's a team that is rolling with a love triangle of sorts. We're talking about the Haas VF26, or the Toyotas. And this livery doesn't look like the type of Haas that we are actually used to, because the kazoo is very much at the forefront of this design. It is screaming, "Aah!" Makes sense since they're the title sponsor of the team, and even though the rebranding transition of Toyota Racing and Gazoo distinguishing themselves from 2027 makes the TGR nomenclature confusing, Haas's backers' intentions are strong. This is a strong livery. It looks confident. It's not a compromise in either placating to sponsors or to save weight through utter black. It works as one. And for Haas, we're all happy for them that they look like a proper team and have been able to court 2 major car makers at the same time. How long that will last, I'm not entirely sure. It may break down in the fullness of time, but right now, in the year of our Bernie Collins 2026, it's working out quite peachily. Toyota adding the extra technical support, Ferrari providing a very solid power unit. Looking absolutely gravy. I think they're even borrowing the Ferrari steering wheel as well. And also the white, red and black of Toyota Gazoo Racing isn't intrusive either. It's not encroaching on Haas's identity, because Haas's identity for the last few years has been black, red, white. So no change there then. It's just a little bit more confidently white. It's a slow burner effect, which just looks cool. And for a car that's mostly white, they've made it look dynamic and fast, which is unusual for mostly or all white cars. That usually infers slowness or hard times, not for Haas though. This is the team going places and has room to be creative and justify its loudness and future. Good for them. That being said, I do hope the presence of Jack Doohan as their reserve driver at the behest of Toyota's recommendations, and maybe Daddy Doohan's money and influence to boot, doesn't muddy the waters regarding the relationship between Toyota and Ferrari, and potentially put some soft pressure on Esteban Ocon going into his final year of his 2-year contract. I seriously have some phones of doubt and spanners of speculation regarding that topic about the influence of Jack Doohan influencing and compromising Ocon's career for a second time, but I'll just put this all down for now and save it for a dedicated video, and if you would like to hear that or see that, do subscribe to this channel for when that actually drops. And also a cheeky comment wouldn't hurt. But anyway, the car looks clean, the Ferrari engine's quite dependable. I think that this year might be a really good one, so long as they can get the execution down. But in terms of execution with the design of the car, very, very good. and very handy for the smallest team in F1 right now to be able to look this polished. Now, number 2, it's either between Red Bull or Mercedes, and yeah, even though it was such a breath of fresh air, the RB22 is in second place. But who would have thought a simple reversion back to gloss and throwback elements from the 2010s would have manifested such happiness and joy from everybody in F1? After nearly 10 years of matte, which did look cool at the time for a few years, the team finally changed it up. Granted, the composition is the same, blue, the red balls and the airbox and the nose cone, but like with McLaren, that's okay. It's iconic and them. But the navy blue matte, though, it did have to go. It was getting a little bit stale. We've now got, especially on the race kit, the two-tone blue of Ford and the blue of Red Bull. But on the car, the RB22, that blue with the gloss, it looks juicy, it looks punchy. It, with also the number within the white ring of old, that's a nice touch as well. And I finally realised what that slanted 3 text is that goes completely in the face of the typical Red Bull font and what everyone else within the Red Bull are telegraphing with the other visual guidelines. It's meant to resemble in some shape or form abstractedly a Red Bull can. But I think the return to all of this is trying to hark back to the days of Red Bull where it was mostly about having character and less driven by politics as it has become in recent times. More about the desire to go racing, have engineering success and have a fun time doing so. And the return to the main Red Bull font in other areas outside of the car, that helps too. I also like the more subtle bull pixels on the engine cover and other parts of the vehicle. Sure, we probably won't see much of it on the world feed and 4K cameras, but close up, it is there, meaning there's been some attention given to the look, a sheen to it which breathes life into the overall presentation. And not to mention the return to having a white stroke around the Red Bull logo. That in of itself just feels right. Because even though the matte navy Red Bull of 2016, it is a design classic, classics can easily become iterative and repetitive and samey. This though, it is the same, but it is different enough to be worth talking about and get people all the chatter. And over on Box, it was rated number 1. And sure, the RB22 as a car may not be the best in 2026, but when it comes to the design, they really nailed it out of the park with this one by just making such a simple choice. But the number 1 car, the Mercedes W17, I won't waste your time, the choices they made with that car, I love this design. I've loved the Mercedes design since 2024. If only Microsoft hadn't come along and insisted on having their standard logo on the airbox and on the front wing. It would have been 100% faultless in my opinion, but given they pay $60 million per year to this team, for that added computational doodads and taking that plum away from Alpine, that is in of itself significant because they were around in the Lotus days. Yeah, you get pride of place and the choice of your own colours. But the black and silver plus the teal of Petronas is timeless and it's a proper representation of what the team has become. The black is part of their most recent success and impact, the teal is the right way to integrate a title sponsor, thanks to a nice Jeep line, and the silver is, like I said with Audi, a nod to German motorsport. And the stripe motif, especially seen on the top down on the engine cover, that is a nod to AMG. The 5 lines, albeit with softer edges than I expected, but no matter. There was something going on to nod to the sporting arm of Mercedes-Benz. And the stars on the cover are also iconic, with the red one of Niki Lauda still proudly settling itself. It's always pleasing to see. Yeah, it stands out like a sore thumb, but that's to be expected. That's why it does so, because Niki Lauda was such an important part of the Mercedes F1 team and how it got to where it was, so yeah, perfectly fine for it to stand out. It's good that it stands out. And quite frankly, I wouldn't mind if this team stuck with the same concept for the next couple of years because, yeah, it's just something I really, really love and they've managed to hit on something which truly works. This could easily be a good foundation for the years to come, especially if it does go on to be winning the Constructors or maybe a Drivers' World Championship. It would be associated with success, like it was when they finally hit upon the W05 and the design really didn't change much for the next few years. This, the W17, excellent in my opinion. And if you found my list excellent or at least entertaining, then you'll find this next video here equally entertaining or at least amusing. But anyway, I'll see you over there.